Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I'm John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. Good topic for you today. Let's do it. What's the weirdest, most unexplainable stuff you've ever experienced in your life? Please remember to like, share, hype, listen and ask for shoutouts, and subscribe.
During high school, I went out to a bush party with a bunch of close friends and my girlfriend. We did all collectively a shot and had a beer. Were chatting and such. It came time to scrounge for some more firewood, so a bunch of us guys went into the woods to collect branches, which is when we found a handmade wooden swing attached to a tree maybe 30 to 40 feet away from our party. After getting the fire going again, I went back to the swing tree and decided to climb it. Sat down on a branch, I blink, and the next thing I know, the fire's dim and my friends are packing up. My girlfriend's calling my name and I call out. She asks where I've been and I gesture to the tree. Her story goes she ended up doing shots with a different friend cause she couldn't find me. She says maybe 3 hours passed. I don't remember any of it. I'm confident I wasn't drugged and I wasn't even that drunk. From my perspective, I climbed the tree and lost 3 hours of time. Growing up in rural Sweden, I spent a lot of time outdoors, wandering around the forest around our house. It was a classic Swedish forest, with tall pines and spruces, lots of rocks and moss, not a whole lot of undergrowth. One time, while exploring a little further from home than usual, I came across a stand of really tall bracken fern. Curious, I pushed through and found a small, perfectly round, black as night tarn. The surface was like a perfect mirror, reflecting the trees and sky above. I got down on my knees and leaned out over the water, looking down to see if I could see the bottom of any frogs or fish. Almost immediately, I got a sense of wrongness, but it took me a few moments before I realized that although I could see the trees, clouds, and sky above reflecting on the surface, I couldn't see my own reflection. I went to stand up, but instead found myself walking toward my house, several kilometers away. I had lost several hours of time. Although I tried dozens of times, I could never find that tarn again. I'll never forget when I was like 12, we were visiting my grandparents in Venice, Florida from Vermont. My mom had just given me this tiger eye ring that she got when she was around my age, and I loved that ring so much. My grandparents had an in-ground pool, so my brothers and I spent a lot of time in it, but one evening I couldn't find my ring. I hadn't taken it off since it was given to me, so I assumed it slipped off while swimming, and I was distraught. I spent so much time looking in the pool that night, and it was nowhere. I woke up early the next morning before everyone else because of my grandparents' cat. He wanted to go outside around the pool, I guess. It was a screened-in area, and he wouldn't stop meowing. I opened the door for him, and he started walking a couple of steps and then would turn around and meow at me. He did this like 4 times, so I finally walked outside with him. He continued this stopping and meowing until he led me to a bunch of bushes that were right up against the screen, and I knelt down to pet him, and when I did, I looked at the ground and my ring was sitting right there. I'm almost 40 now, and sitting here on my couch with that ring still on my finger, all because of that cat, and to this day, I have no idea how or why he led me there. At the end of summer 2011, my friends and I were road tripping around the Shenandoah Valley. After a long day of exploring and traveling, we'd pull into a local hotel or motel of varying quality and comfort to grab a night's sleep before setting off again in the morning. Most of these places were fine, except one place. The Inn at Afton. The Inn at Afton looked like it was from a forgotten season of American Horror Story. Shadows of a more glamorous heyday were still evident in its now decrepit mid-century architecture, the expanse of its long empty pool and the sweeping views of the forested valley below. We checked in early in the afternoon, having decided that it would make a convenient base to explore the nearby area. Our deck was an obese, balding man of indeterminate age who wore a filthy wife-beater and the possessed demeanor of a lobotomized sloth. He was the only other living person we saw in the building, The decor of our rooms looked like it hadn't been updated since the 80s, and all the toiletries turned out to be swiped from other, more respectable hotels. A soap bar from the Marriott, towels from the Hyatt, etc. We try not to think too hard about the causes of the numerous stains on the walls and furniture. Nearby to our corridor, one of my friends discovered a tiled room completely empty save for a single drain in the center. We half-jokingly called it the murder room. Being young and possessing much higher tolerance of discomfort than I do now, we didn't give too much thought to the dilapidated state of our new lodging before setting off to the nearest town to explore the bar scene. It was on our return that the really unexplained incident happened. The sun had long set, and the isolated location of the inn at Afton meant that its environs were particularly dark. Between the hotel and the winding and winding mountain road sat a very large car park surrounded by a long grass that faded into deep forest. As we pulled into this car park, one of my friends, who we'll call C, declared that he absolutely had to go to the bathroom now and couldn't possibly wait the extra 3 minutes until we got back to our rooms. Our friend who was driving was the obliging sort, and so pulled the car to the edge of the asphalt to let C out and relieve himself in the thicket outside. As soon as C got out, our eyes followed the beams of headlights deep into the long grass, where before us stood about 8 figures standing motionless in a circle. Not wanting to find out what a bunch of strangers were doing standing silently in the dark, we quickly ushered C back into the car, sped across the car park, and rushed straight to our rooms, understandably freaked out by what we had just witnessed, and, having seen the movie Deliverance a little too soon before our trip to Shenandoah, we barricaded our room by pushing the sofa up against the door. Soon afterwards, and continuing all night long, we heard the sound of cars or trucks crisscrossing the car park outside at speed. Engines roaring and handbrakes squealing. After a very fitful night's sleep, we left soon after sunrise. Our car, the only one now present in front of the hotel. To this day, I have no idea why those people were standing in a circle in the dark in the middle of nowhere, and a large part of me is happy that I don't. I was on watch in the Coast Guard on a Lauren station in Okinawa when things started flying around the room. A metal trash can lid flew off the trash 3 times. I'd walk over and replace it, go back to my desk, and a few minutes later, bang, it would hit the floor after sailing 20 feet. The last time I picked it up and was walking back to replace it when the spoons in a water glass stood up and started rattling back and forth in the glass. A salt shaker then tipped over, the lid unscrewed as I watched, and salt ran out. I was heading back to my desk when a plastic paper tray flew off the desk like it was thrown. It flew about 8 feet and scattered papers all over the floor. This happened in the middle of the night when I was alone on watch. It then stopped. I spent over a year there, and nothing like this ever happened again. When I was around 6 or 7 years old, I used to stare at this photo in my school during recess every day. My school had an urban legend about old class photos of alumni, probably 80s, I don't know, my school's around a century old, hung in an area near our classrooms. I don't exactly recall the story, but basically one photo had a student ghost with blood all over, and I always wanted to look at it to explain in my head what I was seeing. Probably creeped the admin staring at the photo of a ghost story every day. Anyway, one day I went to do my usual staring, and I remember clearly not being able to find the bloody student. I carefully looked at each student and every photo in case I misremembered her location, but she wasn't there anymore. That's when I stopped visiting the area. To this day, I occasionally think about it, trying to rationalize my experience. I still have no definite answer, but I just chalk it up to either my stupidity or the usual children's imagination. A few years ago, I accidentally got a bit separated from my tour group when I was touring the Winchester house in San Jose. If you're unfamiliar, please look it up, and ended up alone in a hallway. The group had followed the guide left and down a staircase, but I noticed a movement to the right about 10 feet down the hall in an area we hadn't walked through. I was curious and went to check it out. It was a rope blocking off a doorway to a decrepit-looking bathroom with a tub. The rope was swinging back and forth as though someone had grabbed it, raised it high, let it go, and let it swing to and fro. I swear there was no one on that floor except for me. The ground had headed down the stairs more than a few minutes earlier, and no one from the group would have been allowed in that direction down the hall. I know this because as I was staring at the rope, trying to figure out why it was swinging the way it was, the guide came back up the stairs to find me and chastised me for being in an area I wasn't supposed to be. I got a quick picture before he found me, though, and turned the live photo into a video, which shows the rope swinging. It was a small moment, but beyond bizarre.
I've heard some pretty cool things about the Winchester Museum. I've never been there personally, but I wish I would have gone when I was in California, but you never know. Maybe one day. Have any of you ever been there? Just curious. And I hope you guys are having a great day. And Daniel Snyder, I think your name was. That's cool that your dog likes our videos. I like your dog.
I was leaving a restaurant walking back to my car when I thought I spied my girlfriend's dad, which was a bit unusual because he didn't live on that side of town. He was walking closer to me as we were both walking through the parking lot. I wouldn't even call it a double take. I was basically staring at the man. It looked exactly like him, but something seemed a bit different, and I legit couldn't tell. At one point he was close enough where I thought he was going to say hello. At that point, he got into his car, which was definitely not my girlfriend's dad's car, and drove off. I got to my car and sat down. I texted my girlfriend about it, saying I thought I saw her dad. I look up from her phone and look to my right, and there was her dad, parked right next to me, staring and smiling at me. I was honestly kind of stunned. He said hey, and I awkwardly said hi back. He had just arrived to pick up food from some restaurant. Maybe not the weirdest thing of all time, but I felt like I willed this man into existence. I was smoking late one night in my backyard when I saw a truck-sized UFO flying just over the roofline. It flew directly over me. I was so close to it I could see its skin. It had panels that were light and dark and was blatantly symmetrical and did not give off any kind of light or glow. I could only see it because of ambient light from the streetlights. It didn't make a sound. It was completely silent. I was literally less than 50 feet away from it. It wasn't going that fast, maybe 80 kilometers an hour, so I had 5 to 10 seconds to look at it as it went by, and it's nothing like any UFO pic or video online I've seen. It looked like a black suit of diamonds that was stung by a bee flying on its side. It was angular, but had organic curves in the same way Erwin Worm manipulates a Porsche and fat car. I want to know what flew over me that night, and why they seem to keep coming back once or twice a year. My grandmother was visiting 2 months ago, and we both saw a black rectangle fly standing on its end like the letter I across the morning sky, the blackest thing we've ever seen. It freaked me out enough that I don't go out that late anymore. I never thought I'd ever come that close to anything like that. It's hard to talk about without sounding crazy, but that's what happened. Pretty sure I almost got murdered on St. Patrick's Day in 2012 or 2013. Lived in Atlanta, was going to a pub in Brookhaven. Had to get gas around 10 p.m. Gas station was closed, but lights and pumps still operational. Pulled up to the pump in my green Honda Accord and noticed a red Tahoe pull into the gas station, but they just stopped at the entrance. After some time, they drove to the pump in front of mine and backed up, almost touching my car. I was outside pumping gas and just stared at them. They never got out of the car, and after a few minutes they pulled away without ever getting gas or anything. All I can think is they tried to block me in and either rob me, kill me, or thought I was someone else. I attribute nothing happening because I stared at them and didn't take my eyes off for a second. Also, my girlfriend at the time was in the passenger seat while I was outside pumping gas. So if they had tried something, maybe they didn't know how to approach both of us. My car broke down after dropping off my girlfriend around midnight. This was before the age of cell phones, so I started walking home. I lived out in the country, and it was a long hike. I was about two-thirds of the way home, and suddenly up in front of me I see an orange light shining down, like a cone or a spotlight. It looks to be a few 100 feet above the road, maybe a half a mile away, and is moving slowly my direction, as though it was following the road. I don't hear any engines or no sound at all. I stop and it's getting closer, so at this point I'm getting nervous. There is enough moonlight where I can see a telephone pole, so I jump down in the ditch and go to hide behind it. The object stops, almost like it had just spotted me. The orange light turns off and it suddenly starts flashing red, blue, green colors, but it's stationary and has stopped moving. It darts off to the north and goes like a mile or two, and is now a little higher in the sky. I see two other flashing lights with the same red, blue, green colors flashing, and they're at the same height and equal spacing apart. Suddenly they zoom up and out of sight. To this day, I do not know if I saw something extraterrestrial. The last spot that I saw them would have put them close to a power company substation, or maybe something the military was working with. I'm not far from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, but it was definitely something odd and, to me at least, unexplainable. Traveling overnight to give a presentation the next morning in a place I'd never been before. In the hotel, I wake up baffled by this vivid dream. I'm in a big, strange house trying to escape, but the only way to escape is to complete a manual dexterity task. Turn a bunch of twisted white metal mini blinds, the old kind from the 80s, on a long row of windows the same direction and open them halfway. The task was frustrating to do with my dream hands, and it felt like it took forever. I fixed the thing on 20 windows before waking up wide awake like what the was that weird dream. I get up and dressed, drive to the building where I'm teaching the class. The host shows me to the presentation or boardroom. The sides of the room are lined with windows, and each window has a jacked up, uneven mini blind that will have to be fixed before the attendees arrive. After college, I moved home for a bit and was living in my childhood bedroom, which is on the first floor while my parents' room is on the second floor. One night I was having trouble sleeping. I was in that weird half sleep where I knew I wasn't fully asleep but also wasn't awake. But when I hear what sounds like a key in the keyhole in the front door. My bedroom's down the hall from out front door, which is a pretty big open room with a tile floor. That can be kind of echoey, and I had my bedroom door open. I remember hearing the jingling noise in the door and thinking, oh, that must be best friend. Guess she is coming over to say hi. This wasn't too crazy for me to think. This friend lives a block away and has a shiny, slimy family and very often will stay over with us. It is unusual for her to show up in the middle of the night unannounced though. I can't say how long the noise went on. Probably wasn't that long, but in my half sleep it felt like a long time before I realized, wait, why does it sound like someone's trying to get in? And if they're using a key, why hasn't the door opened yet? So finally I shoot up in bed with a surge of adrenaline and start listening. There's a loud jangling like someone is messing with the door handle or lock. After sitting there, panicking, I run to the door, and now I can't remember if my dog barked first or I yelled first, but I know that I yelled, "Hey!" and slammed my palm on the door at around the same time my dog barks from upstairs in my parents' room. And the noise stops. Only a few seconds after that, I run around to the dining room where I can see our front door from the window, and there's no one there. Even now, years later, I kick myself for not running there first, but now because I smacked the door before looking out the window, I'll never know what was out there that night. The weirdest part is, we have a glass door in front of the big wooden door, but I didn't hear the glass shut after the noise stopped, and the noise sounded like it was coming from the wooden door. I mean, I was standing right in front of the door listening to it for a brief second before I yelled and hit the door. Anyway, maybe someone was trying to pick the lock, maybe it was an animal, maybe a ghost. The world will never know, And yes, before you ask, my dad and I went and checked around the house outside and then made sure all the doors and windows were locked before we went back to bed. Although at that point, I was not able to fall asleep, lol. First night I moved into a house I'm renting a couple of years ago, go to sleep without having tried the TV yet. I wake up to the sound of voices from the TV and I'm terrified as I was living alone. I go out of my room to find that the TV was on playing some random YouTube video. I had never used the TV at that point and wasn't familiar with the platform, so I don't think I sleepwalked as I couldn't figure something complicated out like while I was sleepwalking. I wondered if someone was squatting before I moved in and didn't realize I was there, but no logical explanation made sense for it. Left me with a very bad gut feeling, but nothing else weird happened while I lived there.